Hello chess friends and welcome to your Out of Chess channel and welcome back to our Magnus TALSEN mini-series where we're analyzing some beautiful Magnus Carlsen games in which he played in sort of an aggressive Mikhail Tal sharp attacking way. And today's game is an amazing game back from 2003 between Magnus and Krogh Harestad, in which Magnus Carlsen played here, I think, again, multiple beautiful sacrifices all over the board. And we have to also mention here in 2003, let's repeat again, Magnus Carlsen is only 13 years old. His rating was about 2400, but he played here in top GM level. Put your seatbelts on and enjoy again in an aggressive Magnus Carlsen game. So with the white pieces, Magnus opened here with move e4. Harestad's response was e5, knight to f3, knight to c6, bishop to b5. The Rui Lopez, the Spanish game, is on the board. a6 Murphy defense. Magnus robs back, and now Harestad plays the normal idea with an attack against the pawn. We have now kingside casting, and now after move b5, bishop to b3 and bishop to e7, Harestad goes into this close Rui Lopez style. We have now rook to e1. Magnus protects finally the pawn. d6 here by black, and now c3, preparing of course the breakthrough with the move d4, casting by Harestad, and now a prophylactic here by young Magnus, not allowing to get pinned, because if you play too aggressively here with the move d4, it wouldn't be a mistake, but then unpleasant lines I think are to play then bishop to g4, then there is a huge tension around the score d4. So as I said, nothing wrong also here for white, but Magnus Carlsen, always a great positional player, understands of course the basic concepts of Rui Lopez. We have now knight to a5, which becomes now the so-called Chigorin Defense, attacking now the bishop on b3. Magnus steps back, and now c5, the normal defensive structure, not allowing d4 to come, at least in a good way. d4 will come, but at least it's not so aggressive when you don't have of course the pawn on c5. Magnus advances of course the pawn to d4. Now we have queen to c7, connecting now also the queen to the pawn, and now after knight from b to d2, now comes I think the first tiny little critical moment of the game. Here Krogh Harestad, I think, has to play c takes d4. You have to here, I think, this is the best way to undermine a little bit the pressure in the center. Then after c takes d4, now you can go back with your knight to c6, and then if something like d5 happens, then you would get an extra tempo with your knight against this powerful bishop on c2, and I think black is pretty solid. This would be, I think, a pretty equalish game. But instead of this move here c takes d4 immediately, Harestad played knight to c6, which now after move d5 makes this life of the knight a little bit harder. You don't have so many good squares now. You would love to of course now to come to b4, but now it's not possible. It's a different story now, and you see now Harestad has to play now a passive move. Magnus has now space advantage, and the knight on d8 is a little bit misplaced. Look at this, it cannot jump on e6, it cannot jump on c6, it cannot jump on b7. Even if it goes to b7, then it takes the natural maybe piece score for the bishop here. So not really good score for the knight. So the evaluation is here much better already for white. Nothing dramatic is going on, but I think a tiny little inaccuracy already here by black. We have now the move a4. Magnus of course attacks now the a file. We have now rook to a7, and now knight to f1, with the idea is to hop with the knight on g3, and then like in the common Rui Lopez strategies, you're trying maybe to place your knight on this beautiful square on f5. g6, Harestad prevents this idea immediately, but now it leaves of course this diagonal open, which gives here Magnus Carlsen extra tempo by the bishop against the rook. Rook to e8, knight to g3, good score for the knight. Knight to d7, knight to h2, and now after move f6, Magnus Carlsen plays a beautiful f4, bishop to e3, which prepares now to move f4 here by white. If you play f4 immediately, then it leads into complications after knight to f7. Black would have this defensive resource. You will eventually lose your dark square bishop. At least you will trade it off. You will not lose it, but the dark square bishop will be off the board for sure, and then you don't have any more chances to attack the dark square weaknesses that black provoked in the beginning by playing the move g6. So that's why bishop to e3, really good move here by Magnus. Knight to b6 by Harestad. Now a takes b5, a takes b5, and now bishop to d3, going simply here for the pawn. Maybe even rook takes a7, queen to a7 is an option, then to go maybe immediately with an attack here with f4, or you can even try here, I think, h4, h5 is also a very nice idea. The queen on a7 is a little bit misplaced. It's far away from the action, even in this line, because I think the game transposed simply to the king side. Everything is going on the king side, not so much on the queen side, so the queen is now really, really far away. But okay, Magnus went for the pawn on b5. Harestad protects it with bishop to d7, and now queen to d2. Here Magnus plays pragmatic chess, connects now the rooks, which is also of course something that you learn in chess schools. Rook connection, very, very important stage of the opening. Knight to f7, we have now rook takes a7, rook takes a7, and now I've moved queen to e2. Magnus puts more pressure against this weak pawn on b5. Now Harestad doesn't react correctly. Here he has to play c4, and I would say again pretty equalish game with good also spaces now for black on the queen side. But here Harestad played a tiny little inaccuracy, queen to a6, which is getting basically the queen in front of the bishop. Not sure why he played this move. Probably he want to keep a certain flexibility here, maybe to be aggressive with potential b4 move, but it's impossible. Maybe he calculated, okay, maybe I'll play later c4, but okay, huge chance he had already to equalize the game with the move c4 already. Magnus continues with an aggressive knight to g4, king to g7, bishop to c1, and Magnus prepares now a queen and bishop battery on dark squares. What he has to do, of course, is somehow to get rid of the key defender, the knight on f7. The knight on f7 is now the best defensive piece in black's position. We have now knight to f4 by Harestad. We have now bishop to c2, rook to a8, and now Magnus builds this battery, is preparing now finally to play knight to h6. c4, we have now rook to f1. Magnus is not rushing with the attack. First improves now all of the pieces, prepares this move f4, knight to c5 here by Harestad, and now knight to h6. And now another critical moment here in this beautiful, beautiful game. Here after knight to h6, Harestad, believe me or not, has to pick up now here the knight on h6, allow even queen to h6, although it seems a little bit unpleasant that the queen is getting here on the square. Then you have king to g8, and then after something like f4, you have to bring the queen into the defense. Even if f5 happens, you bring the queen here, and nothing spectacular can happen. You have finally Krogh, the key defender, new key defender in front of the king, and the position is now about equal. That was the only way here to defend his position, but instead of this move, Harestad played now knight to g5, which is now seeming a good move, but now Magnus Carlsen has great attacking chances with the move f4 anyway. The move that he has prepared, black has to react, and after queen to f4, the issue is here you cannot take, of course, your king takes h6, then you get something like this, f takes g5, and then here the rook will come into the game aggressively. So there's no way that you're going to take this knight on h6. So here after move f4, Harestad took, he takes f4, queen to f4, and believe me or not, now in this particular position there's only one good defensive move, maybe just for fun if you want to participate actively in this beautiful game. Pause the video and try to see now again the main defensive idea here by black. It's a move that we have discussed already, but now it's maybe working. So what should now black do in order to defend this position? Okay, here Harestad, believe it or not, has to play king takes h6. Now it's working because after potential h4, okay, you will get pinned and black will lose eventually the piece on g5, but now after something like f takes g5, the queen can come here. You will of course also lose this pawn, but now after rook to f1, knight to f1, and bishop to g5, queen to g5, white is slightly better, but I think now the queen could come into the defense. This pawn is a little bit misplaced, it's standing in the way of its own bishop, so now suddenly I think black could breathe and could maybe finally defend this position. But here after king queen to f4, Harestad tried a tactic against Magnus Carlsen, bishop to h3, and this move is not working because Magnus Carlsen plays a counter attack. Queen to h4, of course you don't want to take because you get the royal fork, that's not working. After queen to h4, bishop to d7 by Harestad, and now comes the brilliancy of this attacking game here by Magnus Carlsen. Now Magnus Carlsen will play everything like the top engines, really like Mikhail Tal. He played now such an aggressive attack. Again, just for fun, if you want to participate actively in the game, try to see now the best continuation here for white. Many moves are basically possible, but I really loved Magnus Carlsen's choice the most, and that's even the most accurate way here to proceed. So what you do now in this particular position, so pause the video and win the game here for white. Obviously it's not winning the game immediately, but it's sort of an attacking flow that white gets now finally in the position. Okay, here Magnus Carlsen played a brilliant e5, liberating simply the new attacker into the game. The bishop on c2 didn't really participate in the attack. e5 is really a great attacking move. It's a great move that shows that Magnus knows already with 13 how to really make progress in the attack. After e5, we have now the move d takes e5, and now the great follow-up knight to h5. This is the way they go. The knight comes now in the spectacular way into the game. What should you do? Let's see now options. If you try something like king to h8 here, then still it's winning. Look at this, knight to f6, bishop to f6, then bishop to g5. You have to maybe step back with your bishop here, then the bishop is coming here, rook to f6, and I think there's nothing that can be done. You can just maybe deliver a couple of checks. You can also lock out here the activity of the light square bishop, but then when the rook is coming here on f7, queen to f6 is a huge threat, and the game should be over. Even if you try here king to h6, if you try to pick up the piece on h6, it's still not working because of this discovered attack by the queen. You have to step back. Now we pick up this one, and the game is suddenly collapsing here on dark horse. So look at this. Magnus plays knight to f5, leaves now two knights hanging basically, and here Harestad took now this knight on h5. Now Magnus played an aggressive queen to g5, sacrifice the queen here. If you try to step back, maybe do f8, then you get checkmated on g8. If you try to step back on h8, then you get knight to f7, also a beautiful checkmate. So after queen to g5 here by Magnus, Harestad took. Magnus delivers a new check. Whatever you do, if you step back here, then rook to h7 is a checkmate in the game. King to h6 has been played, and now Magnus played rook takes h7, a spectacular checkmate by the bishops and rook's activity. So amazing game, amazing attack that started with this beautiful e5 move, liberating the long diagonal for the light square bishop. It comes of course also with a huge threat, because suddenly the defense is collapsing, and now after d takes e5, this move knight to h7 follow-up, knight to h5 follow-up with an attack against the king. So a great Immortal attack here by young Magnus Carlsen. So okay, I hope that you enjoyed this game by Magnus Carlsen. If you want to see some other beautiful, spectacular, really aggressive games played by Magnus Carlsen in his career, check out here our playlist. Here are some games that we have analyzed before. And if you like this content, hit the subscribe button. See you soon with some more videos, and what do we say in the end? Chess is the best, of course.